Hey guys, Mosa here, and today I'm bringing you my recap of the Seattle Seahawks cuts from yesterday and what their roster currently looks like, and also I will be projecting who I believe will be the starters of the season for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, without a further ado, let's get started. Now, there are some players that we knew were going to get cut. Josh Johnson being one, Aaron Fuller. I don't understand why Seattle cut him along with Penny Hart. Then there's Kate Johnson, Darius Robertson Jr., Cody Thompson, Travis Toivanong, I don't really know how to say that last name, and Connor Weddington. Now these guys, honestly, running back slash receiver, the only running back I just named was Josh Johnson. Honestly, I don't understand this wide receiver cuts. Like, you left 4 wide receivers on the active roster. Like, what is that? And we know the 53rd spot on the Seattle Seahawks will be the cornerback they just traded for, who was formerly with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, at tight end, Ian Bunting, Tyler Mabry, and Cam Sutton were released as well along with them. Now, honestly, I don't know any of these tight ends, but I knew for a fact that they weren't going to make the Seattle Seahawks team. And then you got offensive lineman Tommy Champion, Greg Eland, Jared Hawker, Pierre-Olivier Lestage, and center Brad Lundblade. Now, I honestly think Seattle should have kept at least some of these guys. Most importantly, the guards, as we do, of course, we do have 2 centers that can also play guard. But you don't really put a center as a guard most of the time. You would love to have each position. Like, you don't want to have someone that can play both of them, but it's good to have that because then you get like more abilities to put, oh, I need a backup guard, here's this guy, okay, put him in. But that's also a downgrade because you're basically putting someone who does not practice at that position usually at a disadvantage unless he's an incredible offensive lineman, which I don't doubt that these guys are. But regardless of that I think they should have at least kept a few more guards. And then we go to the defensive line where Miles Adams and Jared Hewitt have been released as well. These guys already knew that it wasn't going to work out. At least Hewitt, I thought, had a chance to make the Seattle Seahawks roster. Evidently, he did not. Then linebackers Aaron Donker, John Rattigan, and Lakeem Williams. John Rattigan. How did he, of all people, get released by the Seattle Seahawks? I think he would have been eligible to be at least an extra linebacker for the Seattle Seahawks. But in the end, the Seattle Seahawks decided to release him instead. But I thought he was very good. He did a very good job, and I honestly think he should get another job on another team if the chance comes. Then you go to defensive backs where you get Gavin Heslop, John Reed, Will Sunderland. Now, Will Sunderland and Gavin Heslop, these guys, alright, good cuts. But John Reed, you cut John Reed. If I'm not mistaken, Seattle had traded for this guy. And if they do not sign him to the practice squad, that also means that Seattle will waste a 7th round pick. Because I think they have to forfeit a 7th round pick if he is not on the roster in Seattle for the 2021 season. That's what I believe. But regardless of that, if they at least put him on the practice squad, they'll save their pick. But I think John Reed is just a good enough corner to still have on the roster. I think he should have given the Seattle Seahawks should have given him another chance. And then Ashari Crosswell, the safety, along with Joshua Moon, another safety, were also released. Now, I knew, first of all, Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams are the 2 main safeties in Seattle. There's no way they're swapping them from these 2. But I think they could have put maybe a little bit more depth, especially when it comes to the strong safety position. I know there's Jamal Adams, but still, you need some players to back him up, as he only played in 12 games for Seattle last year. You have to keep more players on the option, because if you don't have the players as an option, then that is a chance that you'll get those players hurt, and then what happens? Seattle gives up so many TDs deep downfield because you're basically going to have to play cornerbacks as safeties. And usually cornerbacks don't play safeties. But regardless of that, I do believe that Seattle did alright with this cut, except when it comes to the wide receiver, Penny Hart. Now, at quarterback, the quarterbacks are Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, and Sean Mannion. And officially, you already know, Russell Wilson will be the starter, Geno Smith will be the backup. I do believe that keeping 3 might be a good idea, but honestly, I would have imagined Seattle would only keep Geno Smith and Russell Wilson. But it's understandable, if your quarterback gets hurt, you'd at least need a backup for the backup. And I think Sean Mannion could do a great job. Alex Magoo, I don't even know how to say his name, to be honest. He was just not good enough. I do believe he has talent, but I think he needs to learn a bit more before he gets a shot as a starting quarterback or even as a backup. Now, when it comes to running backs, Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, starting running backs. Then you get Travis Homer, DJ Dallas, and Alex Collins. They kept all 5 running backs on the roster. Honestly, very good decision by Seattle. They're all very good running backs. And then you get fullback Nick Bellor, who actually played linebacker during the preseason. I don't know why, but to each his own. But regardless of that, Nick Bellor did a decent job as a linebacker, and honestly, he will do a great job as a fullback. Then when we go to wide receivers, this is why I am stressing about this. They got 4 wide receivers only. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, D. Eskridge are the ones that are most likely going to be the starters, and Eskridge being a slot receiver. Freddie Swain will rotate in and out, who knows with who, but I do believe, as a matter of fact, they need more wide receivers. They need more. This isn't enough. They need more wide receivers. Then you go to the tight end where you got Gerald Everett, Will Dissly, and Colby Parkinson. In that order, Gerald Everett will be the most likely starter at tight end. Now, honestly, no hate on Will Dissly, but I think that Will has not been performing as well as he should if he ever want to be the starting tight end. And Gerald Everett, I do believe, has done a very good job, especially coming from Los Angeles and doing not an excellent, but decent job in the preseason. I think that he deserved the starting role. But then we go to offensive tackle, where we got Dwayne Brown and Brandon Shell, most likely starters. Cedric Ogbuehi, Jamarco Jones, Jake Curran, and Stone Forsythe. Now, Forsythe was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks in the 2021 NFL Draft. Jake Curran, if I'm not mistaken, is a rookie, undrafted free agent. And honestly, I think that keeping this many tackles was a good idea. Get some more depth in the offensive line. Protect Russell Wilson at all costs, because that is the franchise quarterback of this team. Then you go to offensive guard, where you got Gabe Jackson, Damian Lewis, and Phil Hines on that offensive line. Now, when it comes to those players, I think Gabe Jackson and Damian Lewis will be the starters for the season, and Phil Haynes will be the backup for both. And there also will be Kyle Fuller and Ethan Passage for a possible chance for them to play guard as well if one of them goes down. But for now, I do believe that Damian Lewis and Gabe Jackson will be the most likely starters at guard. Then we got center, Ethan Passage and Kyle Fuller. They both play center and guard. Very good selection, but honestly, I don't understand that much of the idea. Maybe cut one of the tackles and get another guard. I would have loved that idea, but regardless, it's a very good center in Ethan Passage and Kyle Fuller. Regardless of that, I do believe that they did a very good job in the offensive line. Not good enough, though. I'm not saying the Seattle Seahawks offensive line is good in any ways. They have to show me the proof that they have an amazing offensive line. The starting offensive line, since we couldn't see actually a starting offensive line, what it would look like in the preseason, as we only saw players coming in and out, players that did not play at all. And honestly, I think that this is going to be an excellent option to see what they do against the Indianapolis Colts, and then we'll see what kind of offensive line Seattle will have for the year. Now, on to the defensive line, which we have defensive ends Carlos Dunlap and Kerry Hyder Jr., who will be most likely the starters. Then Darrell Taylor, LJ Collier, Rasheem Green, Benson Mayowa, and Alton Robinson will be there backing them up, who some of them can actually play defensive tackle. And because we don't have that many defensive tackles this year, Seattle decides that they don't want to put that many players in a position where you need a bunch of players. But regardless of that, they did a very good job to keeping these guys and also getting these guys that they drafted or traded or even also got from free agency. All these guys are very good. But then we go to the defensive tackle, where Poona Ford and Al Woods will be the most likely starters for the Seattle Seahawks. But then we get Brian Moan as the third and last defensive tackle. That is my struggle. Why do you only leave one? I understand some of those players on the defensive end position can actually play defensive tackle, but I still don't see why you would do that. Like, I understand it, don't get me wrong, but I still don't see why would you do that. Like, yes, I know you need 53 players on the roster, but at least give some depth into some of these positions. For another example, linebacker, which we only have 3. Of course, the defensive ends, some of them can be pass rushers. And the defensive ends that could do that, LJ Collier, Benson Mayowa could also maybe, and Darrell Taylor, who is a possible chance for the strong linebacker position. But the linebackers are Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks, and Cody Barton. Now, Barton might not get the start. It might be Darrell Taylor, but I think Cody Barton did his opportunity, got his chance, and I think that he is the one that should 100% be the third linebacker, at least. Not in front of Wagner or Jordan. He's going to be the third best linebacker for the Seattle Seahawks, while they got some other defensive ends coming in to honestly replace him, because I don't think Wagner or Jordan will leave the field unless they're injured. Then we go to cornerbacks. Akilo Witherspoon and Trey Flowers, I believe, will be the starters, and DJ Reed will be the nickelback. Now, Trey Brown is also on the team, but the rookie is not giving me that much hype right now. I think that this team honestly needs more depth in some of these positions. As I said, strong safety is one of them, corners another, linebackers another, defensive tackle, wide receiver. Like, Seattle's just leaving these players with no depth on their positions. Like, if they get injured, yes, you could bring up someone from the practice squad, but hopefully it's a bunch of receivers, hopefully it's a bunch of defensive tackles, because if they start getting injured, we're going to need them more than anything. Now, going on to the free safeties, we got Quandre Diggs, who will most likely start, Marquise Blair, and Hugo Amadi. Now, honestly, I don't have anything to say about these guys. These very good safeties and very good selection by the Seattle Seahawks. But regardless of that, I think that Quandre Diggs will be the starter week 1 against the Colts. Then we get on to Jamal Adams and Ryan Neal, the strong safeties. Of course, it's no doubt it's Jamal Adams who will get the start at the strong safety position. But you really can't say Ryan Neal isn't a good safety at all. Maybe he'll play a bit of a dime, nickelback, maybe he'll play corner, but as far as I can see, I think that the most likely safeties will be Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams. Then we go on to the specialist, where we got kicker Jason Meyer, punter Michael Dixon, and long snapper Tyler Ott. Now, honestly, we knew that these guys were going to stay. Tyler Ott, there was a bit of a challenge there for him, because, anyone can be a long snapper, really. A tight end, a linebacker, even an offensive lineman, of course. But anyone can really replace Tyler Ott. But it seems like Seattle does not want to replace their long snapper. And it was clear that Michael Dixon and Jason Myers weren't going anywhere, as I do believe that these specialists for the Seattle Seahawks will be excellent for them. Now, in conclusion to this, I do believe the Seattle Seahawks need help. They need help at wide receiver, linebacker, defensive tackle, and mostly because they don't got depth in that position. Like, those positions need depth. And honestly, yeah, you could possibly put running backs like Travis Homer or DJ Dallas, or even Alex Collins as wide receivers as well. But when have you ever seen that many running backs going to play wide receiver? It really doesn't happen that much, even though it has happened before. But regardless of that, I do believe that 100% this team of Seattle will be interesting to watch. Hopefully, Russell Wilson can be the best quarterback in the NFL this year. Hopefully. And hopefully he doesn't get killed either. That offensive line, even though it's pretty decent, it still is giving me some nightmares from last year. But regardless of that, I think that Seattle did very good in the preseason and in the offseason. Hopefully they can start by winning their first game of the season against the Indianapolis Colts and go on to make the playoffs once again. Now, that was it for this video. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Tweet me any video ideas. Also, tell me down in the comments below, who do you think will make the playoffs this season? And do you think Seattle will be one of them? And also, tell me which one of these players are you most excited to see play in the 2021 NFL season? And who do you think will be traded away during the season or be released during the season? Tell me down in the comments below. Now, like this video if you liked it, subscribe and hit the notification if you want more videos, and I'll see you guys next time.